My intention is never to like out someone or get the juicy goss or, you know, get the headlines. I mean, even interviewing Jada Pinkett Smith a month or so ago, I was told, you know, she's happy and comfortable to talk about the slap. And I was like, wow, amazing. Like her PR had okayed it. And when it came to the interview, I cannot even tell you how uncomfortable I was even asking her about it.
I want to know what success means to you, because you talked about, you know, Dubai being this schmoozy, or there being this schmoozy kind of scene in Dubai, and that not really being you. But at the same time, you identified that Dubai was your power place. So what does success mean to you apart from just legacy alone? Welcome to another episode of Recipe to Success, Season 6. Nimi, it's a pleasure to have you on. How are you?
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. So thank you for having me.
No, thank you. So renowned interviewer, public speaker, you know, the face of Dubai in some ways.
Oh, wow. That's the first one I've heard.
Yeah. I mean, why don't you go into a bit more detail about who Nimi is?
Yeah, well, my therapist will probably tell you something very different, but I'll tell you, I've been here in Dubai for 7 years. I hosted a radio breakfast show for 5 years on Channel 4, so waking up the nation every single morning. And then I moved into TV this year, top of this year, and I host a show on Dubai One TV. I host a lot of stages across the country as well, some of the biggest events in the city, and I have now gone into the public speaking realm, as you said, and become a public speaking mentor, and really just trying to help people, you know, discover the power of their voice.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you're very inspiring when it comes to that kind of stuff. I think your confidence, your energy is something I love, and one of the many reasons why I wanted to have you on. Let's go in a little bit deeper into that. So some of the biggest achievements that you're most proud of, like some of the events that you've done and so on.
Yeah, you know, I have these kind of like pinch me moments, and I think we all have them no matter what we do. And I think the normal answer would me saying like Jada Pinkett Smith, interviewing her, or being on stage with Steve Harvey and having all these big moments. But it's actually not those moments that are kind of like the pinch me moments. It's the groundwork. It's the silent work that no one ever sees you building. It's the decisions that you make that no one knows is like one of the biggest decisions of your life. So I think those are kind of like the big moments for me. I'll give you an example. I mean, leaving the radio for 5 years, I was on the show. It was a lifestyle choice, waking up at 4 a.m. every single morning and hosting a show at 6 a.m. to 10. And, you know, the way I kind of describe the radio show is like someone's 9 to 5 job during a day. It's like then just completely compressed into those 3-4 hours. And you're absolutely exhausted afterwards. You have such a dip and lull in energy. And the thing was, no matter how I was feeling, no matter how ill I was feeling, or, you know, if I was in a fight with anyone, or, you know, just no matter what my mood was, the second that mic went up every single morning, I had to be the happiest person in the room, because my energy affected a nation's energy. And it was a big decision for me in December to kind of decide to leave that role. And there's like that fear kicks in of like, oh my gosh, if I leave this, what's going to happen next? Am I going to be relevant anymore? Am I going to be important? This used to be my dream. And I think there's something in saying that dreams change and the goalpost kind of changes as you go on. But I would like to say like that was probably the most pivotal, proud of myself moment ever, because I had no job lined up. I knew that I wanted to create something in public speaking. And then just by God's will, I went home for Christmas, back to London. And then in January, I get a call, hey, do you want to be the host of Dubai One TV's new TV show? So I was like, okay, see, this is what happens when you conquer that fear, you close that door, other doors will open for you.
I love that. You are a risk taker, and we'll talk a bit more about that later in the show. One question that comes to mind for me is you've sat down with so many, you know, A-listers and top people that I'm sure you probably dreamt of when you were younger, whether it's Shetty, whether it's Idris Elba, Steve Harvey, Gary Vee, the list goes on.
Yeah.
For you, is there an interview that comes to mind of most interesting or most maybe kind of inspiring?
Yeah. You know, I think about this often because every single one has been so different. But I think the one that impacted me the most isn't one of like the hugest names, but it was just the connection that we had. And it was Liza Koshy. And she's like an ex-YouTube star and now turned actress. And what actually caught me wasn't what we were sitting talking about. It wasn't the content. It wasn't the setting. It wasn't her amazing outfit. It was literally how kind and nice she was, that she instantly made me feel like we had known each other for years. And I think there's such an art in that, because I mean, yes, we're all trying to achieve something. Yes, we're all trying to get to where we want to be, but what are we leaving behind with the people that we encounter? And I think that I learned so much from that, because I was like, every single person I interact with or come across to, I want to make sure they leave with a positive experience with me. And so I'd say her, I'd say, you know, they say meeting your idol is like
the bad thing to do,
it's a really bad thing to do, because it might be the worst thing ever. But when I met Tyra Banks, and she was my actual idol, because growing up, I mean, you know, as a minority in the UK, I didn't really see anyone who looked like me. I didn't really have anyone to look up to that was doing what I wanted to do. And so I just gravitated towards women of color. And Tyra Banks was one of those women that just exuded confidence. And I was like, I want to be like her. And then when I got the chance to interview her, she was here in Dubai, like launching her ice cream brand. And before we even started recording, she was from the offset like, oh my God, I love your outfit. Oh my God, you look so cool. And I was like, she's so lovely. Like, this is my idol, and she's everything I thought she would be. So that was a moment where I was just like, again, it was just nice. She was kind to the cameraman, to every single person in the room. And I think that's what matters. And that's what's like kind of like left an impact on me with the people that I've interviewed.
Without mentioning any names, I'm sure you've had the opposite of that as well, where you've sat down with people and they're just moody and they're just like, does that happen to you?
Yeah, a lot.
How do you deal with that?
I see it as a challenge. And ironically, it's usually the ones that aren't the most successful people in the world and aren't the biggest faces and biggest names, which is really strange. But I see it as a challenge, because I'm like, how can I crack them? I just want to crack them. Because every interview I sit down to do, I want them to like let their guard down. I want to see the true face of them. And so I see it as a very quick challenge. But like, the problem is when it is a media interview, when you only have 5 to 7 minutes with that person, super hard to connect. You've got like 3 questions you can get away. But yeah, I think that my intention is never to like out someone or get the juicy goss or, you know, get the headlines. I mean, even interviewing Jada Pinkett Smith a month or so ago, I was told, you know, she's happy and comfortable to talk about the slap. And I was like, wow, amazing. Like, her PR had okayed it. And when it came to the interview, I cannot even tell you how uncomfortable I was even asking her about it. There's just something about like journalistic integrity where you're a bit like, that's not my goal. My goal isn't to get the clickbait, isn't to get the headline. And so when it came to asking her the question, I totally messed up on it. And I was like, you know, when it came to the incident that happened, how did you deal with it? Like, I completely fumbled. And she was so great. She was like, what incident are you talking about? Because loads have happened. So then I had to make clear, the Oscar thing. I mean, I could have easily gone in there and been like, Jada, break it down for me. Will slapped Chris. What happened? But I just felt really uncomfortable with that. I don't know. It's not my style in doing that.
I love that, because I'm also very similar. And I think it's easy to sometimes go down the controversial route because it gets views, it gets clicks, like you said. But I think longevity wise, the guests actually appreciate you more when you don't do that, because then they're like, you know what, I can actually trust you, and I can actually just, you know, let my guard down. And I think then you actually get bigger interviews and you actually feel more comfortable.
100%. And then they'll come back to you every single time. They'll remember you and they'll appreciate you, because in a world in media where, I mean, everything is just about a fake headline or fake news, how nice is it that you can have someone that you can just trust and forget media just in a day-to-day life as well?
Definitely, yeah, 100%. So Nimi, where did it all begin? Because obviously you are this huge star in Dubai now, and I'm sure a lot of people look up to you and kind of want to maybe even follow the same path as you. But it didn't start off like this. So let's go a bit into your journey, where it all began in your media career.
Yeah, I probably the quietest person in the room. I was always in the corner, didn't want to be spoken to. I would cry every time I saw a new person as a kid. And people find it really hard to believe that when they meet me now, because I talk for the country, but they're just like, how did that transition and change happen? And I'd love to say it happened overnight. It just really, really didn't. And I, again, wasn't even academic. Like, going to school, I didn't enjoy it. Classes, tests, all this stuff just didn't really capture me. And I really gravitated towards sports. So I was a semi-professional tennis player representing Great Britain and traveling the world and playing all these tournaments. And I really felt like at home there on the court. And again, I think this is where my discipline now comes from. You know, like, I compare waking up at 4 a.m. every morning for training to be on the court to waking up at 4 a.m. every morning to hit my radio show at 6, you know? And I used to be so disciplined with everything I did, like diet, structure, time blocking, everything. And again, I really struggled on the tennis circuit because girls were mean. Like, girls were really mean, and I didn't really make friends easily. And, you know, I would, if I saw the other girl crying, if she was losing, I would just give her a few points, and I would come off the court and my mum would be like, you know, you can't do that. Like, you really, once you can like taste the kill, just kill. And I'm like, I don't have that killer instinct. And so I always grew up feeling like I'm not going to be the most successful because I don't have this killer instinct. I don't have this sting that people talk about. And then I decided to go into university because all my friends were going into uni and I was getting homeschooled. I wasn't in that normal social life. Everyone was going to Edgware Road and, you know, doing that kind of thing. And I felt really jealous. I felt like I was missing out. So I went to university and did journalism and decided to go into broadcast. Why did I decide to go into broadcast? I have no idea. It was just this kind of like inner feeling of you can do it. Maybe it was a challenge to get me out of my shell. But I explored like doing YouTube videos at home, and I wouldn't release them to anyone. Like, literally, even still to this day, they are still like privately listed, and I just watch them over now and I'm like, wow, you were so different. But I was trying to find my voice. And then I got booked for MTV when I came out of university. And that sounds so simple, but it really was that simple. I graduated, they launched this Be the Next Face of MTV competition. And I had got all my friends together to film a fake video in the local theatre changing room. And people got to vote on the videos of who they want to win. And my video didn't come first, but it came to a judging panel. And then they chose me to be the face. And I genuinely thought I made it. I was like, you know, every presenter's dream is like MTV, like, my goodness. And the amazing offices in Camden. And I was there and I had the contract for a year and it was the most amazing thing. I mean, I was like on red carpets, London Fashion Week, interviewing celebrities. And then it just dropped off and it kind of went. And that's when things kind of changed for me.
And what happened then? After that, MTV is now finished. I guess now you're thinking about your next move.
Yeah, it was scary because I was like, I've made it. Like, this is, my life is set. And I was 23 years old. And, you know, I was like to my mum, delete my number. Don't even talk to me. I'm famous now. But I really thought in my naive young mind that this was it. I'm set for life. And when you have your highest high, you're truly humbled with your lowest low. And I was unemployed for like 2 to 3 years because I was just determined to be a presenter. And luckily, you know, I was so lucky. I come from a family that was willing to support me and take care of me. But I was really down and out. And then I was trying absolutely everything to be in the media world. And I thought, okay, put the presenter thing to the side. Let's actually get loads of experience in the field. So I tried everything from like production behind the camera to editor to newspapers, magazines. I tried everything in the media world, even to the point where MTV is under this group called Viacom, and they also look after Nickelodeon. And so I thought, if I'm in the Viacom building, this was after the whole MTV gig, so I don't even know how I had shame to like show my face. But I was like, if I'm in the building, someone's going to remember me. I'll hear whispers of like jobs coming up and I'll be in the room. And so the only job available was at Nickelodeon, and it was an advert scheduler. And so it was just 9 to 5 sitting there behind the computer, just scheduling ads. And I did it for a year and a half, hoping and praying something would come out of it. Unfortunately, it didn't. But I liked the idea of, look, you're still where you need to be. Like, you know, I believe in power places. I don't know if you've heard of that theory. Okay. So the theory of power place is that where your feet touch the ground and the earth, there is certain different energies that are created within you. And some people seek their power place their whole life. I felt like the UK wasn't my power place, where I didn't feel my most powerful. I didn't feel the best version of myself. And so coming to Dubai, I truly felt the power within me. Like every single second I have been here, I'm like, yep, even more. As every day goes on, I'm like, this is my power place. And so power places are also relevant to like workspaces or offices. And I felt that power in Viacom. Like, you know, you feel the buzz and you feel great. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out for me. But then I decided to go into radio. And it was actually my dad's idea. And he was like, look, pivot a bit, try something else. So I joined my local radio station, which went out to like a couple of thousand of people. And I started a show and I did the drive time show for like 3 months until I sent over my demo to the UAE.
So what actually inspired Dubai? Because you mentioned that as your power place, but how did you know that? Or at that time, did you know that?
Yeah, I always grew up coming to Dubai back and forth because of my mum and dad. And I actually did an internship 8 years ago. It was like a summer internship for a local production company. And I was just the runner. I was getting people coffees and teas, and it was free, obviously. And for like people in Gen Z world now, yes, we did do free work. It was fully voluntary just to gain experience. And it was amazing. I loved it. I was like, yes, I'm with TV presenters. And it was TV presenters who, ironically, I am now working alongside on Dubai One TV. And it was that very production company that I interned for that called me to hire me 8 years later. Full circle moment. And you can't write stuff like that. No. And that just comes back to my point about kindness and being good and sharing positivity with the people around you. Because people, I mean, the lady who hired me probably didn't remember me for my talent. It was just, I was hardworking and I was positive and I wanted to be there. And that's what people remember. So I remember Dubai just being, I loved coming here and I loved the energy and the vibe here. And I just manifested it. Like I just knew. So I remember every day I would go to all the different radio websites to just keep looking at the photos and the lineup of all of the presenters. And I literally visualized myself there. And then I actually ended up being on the breakfast show at Channel 4. So it kind of just, I say it worked out, but I really think I made it happen.
That's crazy. What a story. I want to go back a little bit because obviously in that period where, you know, MTV had kind of, the contract had finished and you were now unemployed for a couple of years.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to go through, right? Because obviously you had a dream, you had a goal, and despite obviously your family, you know, being there to support you, I'm sure, you know, you were very adamant that you wanted this to happen. So how did you deal with adversity? Because you know, you've now got to the position that you wanted to. You've manifested it, you've made it happen. But, you know, in those moments, you know, it's not always easy, right? And there's a lot of people that could benefit from dealing with adversity on how you actually did it and conquered on the other side.
Yeah, it was this innate self-belief that I had that I was meant to be this person, that I was meant to be a presenter, that I wanted to be one of the best in the world to do it. And I would love to sit here and say all it took was my own self-belief. It was so much more than that. And it was other people believing in me that actually got me to where I am. And I know that now we see content all the time, like, if you believe in yourself, you're going to get to where you need to get to. And I get it. And I'm with that. But there's a layer on top of that where you need other people to believe in you too, right? Like even for this podcast, you needed not only to believe in yourself, but you needed a team around you to believe in you that you can create something like this. And so again, it came from the core of my mum and dad, who literally probably believed in me more than I believed in myself. And then it came down to my social circle. And this is why I bang on about social circles so much and being so conscious of who you select to be in them. And I sound quite clinical and my friends laugh at me when I talk about it, but I have genuinely selected the people that I want around me. And I understand that sometimes that's difficult to do and you're in situations and environments that you can't do that. But that to me was so important. Having friends around me who, even when I was doing silly little YouTube videos, believed in me and said, yes, you can do this, and would laugh and comment and share. And it's those people that actually made the difference in my low days and in the times where I struggled. And I was like, I believe I can do this so much. Yeah, maybe it's not meant to be for me. Maybe I'm deluded. And they tell you, people try to convince you are deluded. And I had that at university. I had even close family members telling me, being a presenter isn't a real job. And culturally, I get it, because culturally
it hadn't been done.
It hadn't been done, and it was so alien. And I always just saw it as a challenge. When someone would say that to me, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you that I can do it. And ironically, it's those people now that say, I always knew you would make it. And I'm like, okay, yes, sure, whatever makes you feel better.
So how does that look in terms of constructing your social circle? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people where maybe they have negative people around them. They have that situation where, there's people that don't believe in them. And I'm a firm believer as well of that, because the energy that you attract into your life is what you are able to put out, right? Because if you're constantly around negative energy, it's going to affect your mood and it's going to affect your productivity and everything else in between. So how did you construct that? Was it like a conscious thing of, this person actually brings this to my life, or this person, I can trust them with my life? How does that look? And how did you then kind of remove those people that were the negative vibes?
Yeah, I think first it's identifying how you feel around certain people. And we don't really sit with someone and think, wait, how am I feeling? We always think, how are we making them feel? And I do it, I share this test that you can do to basically identify whether a friend is a real friend or not, and whether they truly are there for you and believe in you. And that is simply just sharing some good news with them. i.e., I just bought a new house, or I just hired a new team member, or, I just bought a beautiful new dress, whatever it is, and seeing their reaction. Now, reading people is like an absolute mastery skill, and you need to be able to do that. If these people are in your closest circle and they are around you 24/7, and they are the voices that are essentially developing your own voice, you need to be aware of how they truly feel. And so it's the people that react. So I'll tell you the difference, right? So what's a good reaction when you share good news with people? A good reaction is, that is amazing. I am so happy for you. Or, I always knew you'd do it. Or, I knew you were going to do this, and this is what you should do next, and contributing ideas to what you can do to create something special, right? A negative reaction is, how did you do that then? Or, oh, okay, so did they approach you or did you approach them? Or, oh, so how much are you getting paid for that? How much was the house then? Where is the house? It's the people that ask questions like that when you have just shared the best news of your life that you are genuinely, internally so happy about. When they react like that, it's a teller. So it's first just identifying who those people are in your circle. And then I understand it's very difficult to do to get rid of them. Family members is one, which I know we are all surrounded by. You cannot choose them, but you have them around. And you've heard the word, but everyone talks about creating boundaries. And for me, it's just like one extreme or the other. I have zero in between. You're either in or you're out. It's black or white with me. There's no gray area. There's no hovering around to see if they become better, or somehow down the line, they're going to be happy for me. I even used to be that person who, when I knew people weren't happy for me and genuinely didn't have my best interest at heart, I was like, no, I'm going to convert them. I'm going to convert them to make sure they love me and that they then become to support me. And I'm like, now I realize, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time, because all that's going to do is drag you down. It's that saying that we've all known. It's like, you are the average of the 5 closest people to you. So even if you've got 4 amazing people who are ride or die for you, but then you've got one person who is, below 50%, your average is just dipped. Why would you do that to yourself? You have a choice in these matters. So identify who it is in your circle that is truly for you. And then from that, you'll be able to either eliminate or keep. and make sure that you look after the ones that you keep and that you know that are truly invested in you, because you've got to invest back. It's not just about you. It's about checking in and making sure everything's good with them and what's going on with them, and you know, how are you investing in their projects or what they're up to. So it's probably the most important thing is who you've got around you in determining how successful you become.
I love that. And obviously that affects your energy. And at the start of the podcast, you mentioned, you know, at one point in your career, obviously you were waking up Dubai. You were the voice that would lift everyone up.
Yeah.
And I want to know, like, how do you switch that on if you're having a bad day? Because obviously that's something that is consistent. You wake up every day, you're waking the nation. And, you know, sometimes you're tired, or, you know, you're going through a rough time, or there's something in your personal life. How did you then deal with that?
Yeah, I think it comes down to responsibility and understanding how much you can affect someone else's energy and time. Now, obviously mine was an extreme version of my voice going out to the nation every single morning, but this applies to parents, you know, or guardians, on how you speak and how you act every single day will directly affect your children and every single person around you. That comes to CEOs, managers. How you act and the energy you exude is going to ripple down to every single one of your employees. So it's that responsibility of knowing that you have to show up as the best version of yourself. Of course, I had days where I wasn't feeling well, and that mic would go up and I would literally say, guys, I'm a human and I'm not the happiest today. And that is the reality of it. But when you do show up and you go home that day, you are so happy that you showed up, rather than you were moody and that, you know, I'm so glad I was the most miserable person in the room. Whoever says that, whoever goes home and is just like, oh gosh, I'm so glad I was a miserable sod. You know, no one says that. So it's making sure you show up, and then you realize it's showing up for others, but it's showing up for yourself. Because guess what? Because I showed up today and I put on this happy persona, and people call it faking or whatever they call it. I call it just having an alter ego. So it's this ability to be able to switch on, as you said. And I've kind of mastered being able to switch it on and off. Like my mum, who lives in London, she messages me or calls me after a long day at work, and she's just like, I just saw all your Insta stories. You look so lovely. It looks so fun. And I just watched your TV show, and I'm just sat at home, like barely speaking to her on the phone. And I'm really low in energy. And she's like, why are you so miserable? That's not who I saw on Instagram. That's not who I saw on TV. And I'm like, yes, of course, because that is exuding this energy that I'm trying to give to everyone. So I think the thing is, the focus is on the impact, and it's who are you affecting around you. It's no accident that Tyra Banks showed up that day with the best energy in the world. Guess what? Because she wanted to have the best interviews in the world. And so she was setting the tone. And so I think setting the tone in every single room you enter, every single company that you work for, you need to be able to maintain it as well. Because I say this, you know, my mum says, why don't you call your friends every single day and catch up with them? I simply don't have the time to do that. So I say, why would I set a bar that I can't maintain? Because everyone's just going to think I've dipped after that. No, I'll set the bar really low or really high and make sure I can maintain it. So it's just that being able to show up for everyone else and knowing the effect and responsibility you have on others.
And you're almost defined on those days, right? Because that's, like you said, when you go home, you feel like you conquered, because it's the bad days that actually define you in terms of, you know, what did you actually achieve?
Yeah.
Like even me, I always say that, you know, when you're having a bad day, even in a work context, it's like, look at maybe 3 things that you can achieve on that day, because then you know what, I was having a bad day, but I still achieved these 3 things.
Yeah.
And it's those micro goals that then lead up to the big goal. Because obviously no one's going to be good 100% of the time, right? So
totally. And I guess those are your non-negotiables. It's your non-negotiables of the day. And it's, okay, as long as I achieve these. And in turn, what does that do? And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I get asked all the time, like, how are you so confident? Where does your confidence come from? My confidence comes from showing up for myself every single day. How do I do that? That is by setting these goals and making sure I achieve them. When I don't achieve them, I'm not as confident, because I basically just told myself that even though you promised yourself you were going to do that, You didn't do it. Therefore, the first promise that you've broken is to yourself. And therefore, your confidence levels drop. So it's showing up for yourself and showing up for others.
Yeah, no, definitely. Broken promises to yourself is what kind of leads to a spiral of negativity, because, there's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
It's within yourself, and you can't even look yourself in the mirror then, because you're like, you know what, I said I was going to do this, but really I didn't.
Yeah.
And then when you do that consistently, it kind of just never ends.
No, and you just need to then again build that up, and I think confidence is a skill. I think, I have this argument with people all the time. They're like, no, you're either an introvert or an extrovert. I'm like, no, confidence genuinely, I believe, is a skill that you work on every single day to become confident. And then you need to work every single day after that to maintain it. Because confidence isn't something that's just going to stay as, just as norm.
Consistent, yeah.
Yeah, you have to work to keep it every single day.
So Nimi, you were an introvert as a child. And obviously you said that it took a lot of work over a period of time. It wasn't like an overnight thing where you came out of your shell. Would you define yourself as an extrovert now, or a bit of a hybrid?
I would definitely say still an introvert.
Really?
Yeah. And I know I don't look the stereotype of an introvert, but put me in a room with a group of people, I'm so uncomfortable. Because what I value and enjoy is one-to-one connections. So even when my friends are like, let's meet up in a group, I'm like, no, I'm out. Because I just want that one-to-one interaction. I want us to gain mutual value and benefit out of a conversation. And in group situations, like, I just feel socially weird. It's such and the way, it was difficult when I first moved to Dubai, by the way, because I had no friends, I had no social circle. And, I was told, you need to get out there, And Dubai just has this like bougie scene and this scene where people are so schmoozy and and it's just not the life that I'm made for. So I felt really uncomfortable, and so I was an introvert, but the way people perceived that was, she's so arrogant, she doesn't want to connect, she thinks she's better than us. And this is where I talk about empathy so much, because now when I see someone who I think comes across arrogant, I'm like, hang on, Nimi, stop. Don't judge them based on that. They could be so uncomfortable and like stone cold because they're going through their own insecurities. I should know I've done it and I felt it myself. So I would definitely say still an introvert, but again, turn it on when I need to.
I love that. It actually brings me back to a podcast I did previously with DJ Bliss Maran.
Love him.
And he says as well that he's an introvert, and people find that fascinating because he's performing in front of thousands of people, DJing and being on a hit TV show and all of this. And he's like, you know what? It's not really how people define it normally. He's like, being an introvert is you want to be invited to the parties, but you don't really want to go.
Yeah.
And I think partially we're all introverts in some way, because even the people that are extremely loud, you don't know how they actually want to spend their time. Like you, I'm sure everyone thinks you're just a natural extrovert, but in reality, that's not the case.
Yeah.
I think maybe we have our moments of both, where, on stage, you're an extrovert because you can sit on stage interviewing someone with lots of people watching, but then when you go home, you just want to have your own time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's also like a danger in putting us in like boxes. Again, it's like introvert or extrovert, black or white. I don't like that. And you're so right. I think you can be both at the same time. And a friend of mine, I was really struggling the other day because a random guy came up to me at an event. He goes, I've been following you for a while, but you don't really have a brand, do you? Like, you yourself are not really a brand. And it got so in my head. And so I was panicking. I was like, what am I doing? I've been working my whole life for this. And I got home and I called Jay Shetty, he's a really good friend of mine. And I was like, Jay, I'm freaking out. I know you're the busiest person in the world, but can you just go look at my Instagram right now and tell me, do I have a brand? And he was looking through and he was like, obviously you're in a transitional period at the moment, like from entertainment through to educational now. And he goes, Nimi, you can be two things at the same time. We're not all born to be one thing. Don't ever feel like you have to be one thing to please the people around you. He was like, I've got a friend who's a supermodel and a political activist. She's both, and she's smashing it. And so that's when things click to me. I'm like, we are so quick to put each other and ourselves in boxes of, I am this, I am that. why can't we just be it all?
He's the best, Jay Shetty. I love him.
He is.
Linking to Jay Shetty, he's all about spirituality, right? I want to know, from your perspective, how important is that to you, spirituality?
Super important. It runs really deep in everything that I do. And I'm not the person, you know, I think spirituality gets confused sometimes and people just see kind of like someone with sage walking around the house and stuff like that. That's definitely not me. When I say I'm spiritual, I find and feel meaning in everything. I find and feel energy in absolutely everything. Even us just sitting here in the room or us meeting for the first time, that creates an energy, and that human to human connection, I think, is beyond what we are physically are right now. And it's really just driven me in everything that I do. And I think that when you're spiritually inclined, you see a higher purpose and a higher reason for everything that you do. And that's definitely the way I'm kind of conformed to.
And it almost links back to when you were looking at the hosts on the page, and then you ended up being a host with the people that you surrounded yourself with in the internship. So it's crazy that you can actually manifest those things and make it happen. And people think that, you know, that's a bunch of BS. Like, people think, you know, how can you just think something and then it comes to reality? But it's true, you know, it's hard work and you know, luck meeting at the same time.
100%. And it's also timing. Like, whatever is meant for you will be for you. But just me sitting there and looking at that page on the website of that I want to be on this radio show, it didn't happen the next day. It happened 7 to 8 years later. And so it's that patience. It's that knowing that, yes, you put it out into the universe. Like, everything I want to achieve, I like say it out loud, because I'm like, okay, it's gone out now. The universe has heard me. It's going to happen at some point. And of course, I don't think it's just sitting there and saying something and it's going to happen. There's so much more behind it, like you said. But I do definitely think like it's knowing your intentions and putting them out there that makes all the difference.
And now that you have achieved those things that you set yourself, and like you said, the goalposts always move, dreams change, what motivates you now? And, you know, is there certain things that you're working towards now?
Yeah. So when I left the radio, I love this presenting version of me, and it's something that I'll always continue doing. But I sat down with myself and I went into legacy mode. And I went into the mode of, what am I leaving behind? What is my reason to be here? What am I actually giving to others? Because I can sit there and interview the biggest names and faces in the world, but what I'm doing is I'm sharing their story and not mine. And as beautiful as that is, because I'm a facilitator for it, I was like, I need to now create a legacy of what I want to do and want to create. And so I thought about my journey and what I've done and, you know, how I've changed and transformed over the last 10 years. And I never had a mentor. I never had an idol. I never had someone who guided me.
You never even had a blueprint?
Never. And it was kind of like me just carving it as I was going and hoping for the best. And so, and even to this day, I feel really down about the fact that I didn't have a mentor. Like, everyone I interview, even when I interviewed like Gary Vee, he was like, he had so many mentors that he could name and share stories of. And I don't have that. And I feel sad about it, but it's just the reality. Sometimes we don't. If we are trying to break through and do something new, we're in it alone. And so I really just try to create that for myself. And I can't remember your question now.
But like, what motivates you now?
Oh yeah. So legacy mode, that's what I was talking about. So that's when I switched. And so when I was thinking about my journey and like how I've changed and what I've taught myself over the last 10 years, I was really like, Nimi, you went from being someone who didn't want to be in the room to now being someone who is the most powerful voice in the room. How did you do that? So I went back and figured out how I did it. And I created the blueprint, as you said. I created the structure. And I was like, I don't think this is something I was born with. I think that this can genuinely be taught to every single person. And so that's when I created Speaker, which is my public speaking mentoring platform. And I do workshops. And, you know, I just think it's so important to find your voice. It sounds so simple, but we're never taught how to communicate. We are not taught at school. We're not taught at home. It's just a given. And so I thought, let's go back down to the basics and understanding everyone's voice and where it comes from. And even like now sitting with you, it's so interesting because again, it comes down to reading people. And obviously I don't know. And then you can think about this when you go home, but where does your voice come from? Right? And I ask this to people all the time because the first voice that we ever have is actually our mum and dad's voice or our caregiver's voice or our guardian's voice. It's not our voice. And then put another layer on top of family members, put another layer on top of media, TV shows, radio that we consume. People's ideas and opinions are piled on top. Then school, other people from social circles, people from different walks of life, that's thrown in there. Now in a world of social media, we have millions of voices out there that are now piled on top of ours. And I noticed as these things are piling, what's happening is your voice is diluting. So who is that voice? When I'm sharing an opinion, is it really my opinion or is it my mum's opinion? And these beliefs need to be broken down in order to actually understand the source of your voice. And so that's what I feel really, really passionate about, because if you want to be the most powerful voice in the room, 100%, let's go and do that. Let's build towards that. But first, let's find out where it came from. If that is your voice, if you want to keep it like that, or do we really want to, find out what your true voice is and what you want to give to the world?
I love that. So now it's all about giving back, essentially, to helping others find their voice. And when you do construct that of, your voice is defined from, family, friends, social circles, social media, whatever it may be, where then do you begin? Like, let's say, I'm someone who, I'm extremely timid. I'm little Nimi, introvert. And, I have a dream. Maybe I want to be a public speaker or something. How do you guide those individuals, and what does the journey look like? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that would be interested maybe in joining your platform and finding out more. So how does that look? Where does day one look like?
So day one definitely starts in understanding like your communication style. We all have very different communication styles in the way that not only we communicate, but are communicated to as well. The way we receive other people's communication is key. So I love to always break down people's communication style and what they are. There's a diagram that I found, which was really funny because it literally just said, again, it was introvert, extrovert. And I was like, no, I refuse to share this with people because it makes no sense. But there's 4 different communication styles, and that is expressive, aggressive, and passive and non-aggressive. So we all, in one way or another, fit into one of them. And it could be 3 of them all together. It could be a culmination of them, but it's identifying what your communication style is first. And when we know you come from a passive place, for example, which is super quiet, a bit of a, doormat, essentially, where people just walk over you, you don't really have an opinion on many things. That was literally me growing up. I was just like, yeah, whatever you say. Nimi, what do you think about this? Oh, I don't mind, whatever you think. Where do you want to eat? I don't mind, wherever you want to eat. Like, I didn't really have an opinion.
Is that also a people pleaser in a way?
100%. And that comes down to personality types. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But it's identifying your communication style and noticing where you feel you're strongest. Because actually, sometimes being passive could work great for when you're a CEO or a leader running a multinational company who needs to actually just chill a bit, and actually have some empathy towards their employees and, have understanding towards the structure or the people below them. That's when it comes in handy. But it's what we were talking about off camera before. It's being able to switch between the communication styles. And so when they first come to me, it's communication style. How do we understand that? Identifying your voice. Where does it come from? Then it's identifying your objectives and your goals. What do you want to sound like? Like, I think it's so important to have people that you look up to that speak exactly the way you want to speak, having these idols, having these speakers that you watch, consume, you study them. Like, I still to this day, when there are big interviews that come out, whether it's, when Oprah interviewed Harry and Meghan, everyone was watching for Harry and Meghan and what they were going to say. I was sitting watching Oprah. I was just fixated on Oprah, her body language, her tone, the way in which she asked questions. Were you silent or were you silenced, is what she said. And I was like, that was iconic. My mind was blown. And I couldn't even tell you what Harry or Meghan said, because when you're focused on creating your voice and wanting to become a powerful speaker, you need to study the people that are good, powerful speakers. So I think that's essentially doing, picking people that you look up to, identifying them and kind of mirroring them.
I love that. So, if anyone is interested in that, definitely check that out, because I may sign up as well.
Yeah.
You never know. Why not, right? Even if you're a confident speaker, there's always so much more to learn and break down and look at how you can improve, right?
100%, always.
So, Nimi, we've spoken about what motivates you, and we've spoken about, your journey and so on. I want to know what success means to you, because you talked about, Dubai being this schmoozy, or there being this schmoozy kind of scene in Dubai, and that not really being you. But at the same time, you identified that Dubai was your power place. So what does success mean to you, apart from just legacy alone?
For me, because I'm specifically in the field, it's what interactions and joy and energy you leave with people. That to me is possibly the most important thing. I'll share a story with you. I had a hairdresser who left the job a couple of weeks ago at the TV studio. And he took me to the side on his last day. And he was like, I absolutely love you, but I have to tell you something. And I was like, okay. And he said, you need to stop being so nice to everyone. And I was shocked. I was like, what do you mean I need to stop being so nice to everyone? He said, and excuse my language, but he said, you need to be a bit of a bitch around here to be respected. And it kind of took me aback, because I don't navigate myself in that way. I don't believe I need to do that in order to gain respect. I believe my work does all the talking. And so it comes back down to stripping it all down. And I want to double down on saying that being nice, like if you were given two options, right? You're going to get to your end goal. You can either do it being nice to every single person you come across, or you can do it being really, really mean. A lot of people just decide or think they need to take the mean route because that's the way they're going to get things done. I think that it's the absolute opposite. And so I was getting in my head about it, and I was like, oh, maybe I do need to be a lot tougher and say this and say that. And I thought, absolutely not, because it's not authentic to myself. If I went into that studio and didn't walk in and say hello and good morning to every single crew member on that floor, and didn't say thank you to every single crew member on that floor, didn't say thank you so much for your energy. They take the mick out of me now. They say thank you for your energy. But it's because that's my thing. I want to say that to every single person, because every single person matters. And so doing that, I think people will remember you. Okay, you might not be respected as much as the next person who's being mean to them, but it's not really respect, it's fear. People mean, they instill fear in people, and therefore they treat you, and they're always, treading on eggshells around you. I never want people to feel like that around me. I want people to feel at ease. I want them to be comfortable. I want them to just be themselves and not feel like they have to be anything else. And so that's success to me. It's people having positive interactions with me, people remembering me for being a nice person or a good person or a kind person. It doesn't matter. I mean, of course it matters, but it doesn't matter who I'm interviewing and the big names, and that's all amazing. But what did they remember of me is way more important. I really love that. And I think it is super interesting, because the fear element that you're talking about is so true, that, they do fear them, and they'll get compliant. Even in a business context, right? You'll get compliance, but you won't get creativity. Yeah. And, success is not the only metric as human beings that we want. No matter how much we aspire to achieve, how ambitious we are, success is not the only thing. It's you do want people to be talking good about you behind closed doors. You do, I always say my metric ultimately is how many people come to my grave when I die. And, that's for me, what motivates me, because it's not just about, how much money I make from this person or how much respect I have in this life, because that's going to be gone at some point, but it's what people are going to remember you by.
So I really resonate with that and love that.
Yeah. And what people are saying about you when you're not in the room.
Exactly.
Like that to me, you know, growing up as a kid, and I spoke to, when I go around to schools and talk to so many kids, and, you know, they're like, oh, so-and-so says this about me. They say this about me. And we grow up so worried about what people think about us. And still as adults, it's something that we're so conscious of. If we are just being our purest form and people don't like it, there is literally nothing we can do. We cannot change it. Yeah. We cannot work overtime to try to change their opinion. But it's so funny that you said the grave thing at your funeral, because
it's a bit deep, but
it's so deep. I love it. We're connecting. It's deep. I think about this all the time. And one thing that I apply to every single decision I make in my life, small to big, is I think about myself when I'm 90 years old and I'm in a beautiful home and I'm sitting on a terrace and I'm watching the sunset. And every time I'm confronted with a decision in today, I think, what would she like? Would she be happy with it? Will it matter to her when you're 90? So when I make a decision as to whether I left the radio to start my own thing, how would my 90-year-old self feel about that? Looking back, will she say, well done, Nimi, I'm so proud you did that? Or will she say, I'm so glad you stayed in the radio because you were so scared of branching out? No, she'd be so proud. Whether that's even making a decision on like a friend or, you know, getting married to someone, whatever it may be, these kind of decisions matter, because how will your future self feel about it? And I think that really has helped me in my decision making.
Have you always also been a risk taker? Because throughout your journey, whether it was MTV, whether it was leaving the radio show, not knowing what was going to be next, you took those risks and, you know, believed in yourself, and, you know, you didn't have anything lined up. So where does that risk taking come from? Is it that 90-year-old version of making decisions? Yeah,
it's that. And it's just my fear for not changing is bigger than my fear for changing, if that makes sense. So I am way more scared that I'm going to stay in the same place than I'm scared that if I take 2 steps forward, that it's gonna take me back. Because I think that if I'm not putting myself out of my comfort zone, what am I doing? I'm literally sitting stagnant. You know, even nowadays in the business world, if you see someone staying in a job for 10 years, you're kind of worried. You're like, why did you just sit there for 10 years? Like, you know, and that's just the world we live in now. We actually like people who are, you know, 2-3 years in one job, moving to another, challenging themselves, taking on a different role. This creates experience and the human element of us that we now, when we are hiring someone, look for. So it's that the fear that I'm going to stay stagnant is so much more scarier than actually taking the risk. And that's why I'm just like, every risk that comes my way, I'm like, let's do it.
Yeah, I love that. And it's almost like working in reverse as opposed to, the opposite, because you're thinking about what you would not be happy with later down the line.
100%.
Super good advice. On the topic of success, we hear this a lot of money and success brings happiness. What are your thoughts on that?
Money and success brings happiness. So I don't think money equals success. And that comes down to how I define success. But I think money might create a bit of ease and peace, if you can call it that. I don't put value on money. It's not something that is one of my pillars that I'm chasing. And the way I've always been is that, and people always say this to me and they joke about it. They're like, oh yeah, well, you're good. You're comfortable. I'm like, how do you know I'm comfortable? I just act comfortable. And the way I talk about money matters. So again, this is like spiritual and deep, but the way you treat money and talk about money and think about money determines your relationship with money. And so money will come to you in abundance if you treat it like it's meant to be for you. So I never think about finances. I don't think about, oh, how much have I made? Or, you know, am I making as much as so-and-so? Because in my head, that doesn't define my success. And I just have a great relationship with money. Because I don't put value on it. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. So I don't think money brings you success. I just think they're 2 very, very different things.
I love that. And a bit of a selfish question, because I come from the social media world and social media marketing and stuff. How important has social media been in your journey? Because obviously you're reaching a lot of people in different realms, whether it's TV, whether it's social media. How important has that been for your journey, for your career, as well as for your new venture of public speaking?
Yeah, it's been a funny one, social media, because my journey started with YouTube back in the day when I was doing silly little videos, and I was constantly trying to find what my voice is on social media. And now I think I've finally got there 10 years later. But I always was so inauthentic to myself. Like I was always trying to mimic other people. So your Lily Singhs were doing amazing. And so I was trying to be like her. Your Liza Koshis were doing amazing. So I was trying to do funny skits like her. And I'm like, that's just not me. Like that, I didn't feel comfortable doing it. And so I always had a weird relationship with social media. And the reason it was weird, and I know that now, is just because I wasn't truly portraying myself. And I think nowadays we see so many people like being positive and being like, oh, my life is great. And you don't really get to see the reality of everything. Of course, naturally, we all share the amazing things about our lives because that is what social media is mostly for. But I'm loving now that we're seeing a bit more of people sharing their downs. And I feel like I'm quite honest with that on my social media. You know, I'm quite vocal about, look, okay, I'm not feeling great today. And that started on the radio. You know, I started realizing that it's not realistic for me to be happy every single day. It's just not life. And it's for people to relate to you and actually know that you're a fellow human being. I can't be happy. Like, not every day is the best day in the world. And, you know, it's a bit like the Truman Show where it was like every single day is the same. And that's how I saw social media. And so now I feel like people really are breaking down the stigma of it all. So I would say now I feel really myself and authentic on social media. I don't feel like I even have to post every day. I don't feel like, you know, if I'm not feeling it, I just won't post for a few days and I'll be off it and have my boundaries with it. But some days I do feel like I wish it wasn't there, because there is this pressure now, especially in the realm I'm going to constantly keep up with it. But I think it's understanding that it's not a part of you. It's just an external part that you can dip in and out of. But it's been so beneficial to me in every single avenue that I've tried. So it's been like love and hate a bit.
Yeah. We spoke about your 90-year-old version of yourself, right? Mm-hmm. I want you to give a message to your younger self.
Oh my God. I actually did this with my therapist.
Really?
Yeah,
okay,
I did.
Therapy session locked in.
I know. I literally only a few weeks ago, she was like, imagine your younger self. What do you want to say to her? I would say that your self-worth isn't determined by the voices around you and what people think of you. It is your self-belief that will get you to where you need to get to. But more than anything, it's staying true. It's understanding that you can be the nicest person in the room and be the most powerful at the same time. And that do not waver. Do not try to conform to what society thinks you need to be. Do not try to, you know, divert away from who you truly are to be respected and to be the most successful person in the room. Stay true and you'll get to where you need to get to.
I love that. Nimi, it's been a true pleasure. I could sit here for another 2-3 hours.
Me too.
I think we could definitely do a part 2 soon.
I have so many questions I want to ask you.
Let us know if you want to see a part 2. But any final message for your supporters, and also where can they follow you? We'll put it in the description anyway. But
yeah, at the Nimi Mehta on Instagram, Speaker by Nimi Mehta for the public speaking. And just a last note to say thank you so much. I really champion and support people who go above and beyond to create content that is of impact to other people. You don't have to do this, but you do it, and just more power to you. So
not
thank
easy
you.
interviewing the interviewer, but it was fun.
Yeah, it was so fun. You were great.
Thank you.
10 out of 10.
You heard it. There you go.
Yeah.
I hope you all enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you soon.